Hey everybody, thank you for joining us on Taurus Tech Talk. Today, I have my counterpart, Corey Church, Vice President of Technical Operations. I'm Robert Parsons. And today joining us is Mr. Robert Dutton with Legrand AV. Robert, how are you doing today?
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. I unbelieve that.
That's a heck of a way to answer the question. So Robert, again, is with Legrand. And Robert, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got started in the pro AV industry?
Sure. So, 1999, December 1999, found myself unemployed after a string of about 13 jobs in 7 years. I was really trying to find myself.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah. See, my whole dream was to be in the music industry. And that's what I went to school to be, and be a recording engineer, and got hired right out of school and went to work for a production studio. Ended up within the first year earning 2 gold records.
Wow.
Whoa.
And working with artists on tour and stuff like that. When I realized after about 3 years of doing this is my dream was a nightmare, and I no longer wanted to be in the music industry. So leaving the music industry at 23, 2 gold records, didn't want to do that anymore. I didn't know what else to do. It's like you achieve that one goal in life, and then you're going to, like, now what? I'm 23. Right? So,
Oh, I'm done. Time to take a nap. I'm really glad you asked this question. I had no idea. 2 gold records.
Right.
I didn't realize I was
feel like we're
amongst
basically done with the podcast. I just want to talk about the gold records.
celebrity here. Holy crap. I'm going to need your autograph.
So I, over the next 7 years, tried to figure out what I wanted to do. And I seen an ad for a company that was a audio-visual manufacturer. And I thought, well, I know audio. Maybe I'll see what this is all about. And ended up going to work for a company called Altinix, which was a kind of a secondary tier line at that point to Extron, and did DA switchers, matrix switchers, and things of that nature, and landed there. And within 45 days of being there, I broke the company's sales records. And then the next month I duplicated it and broke it again. And
so would you say that you had the Altenex gold record? Sorry.
I didn't realize Robert was such a BA. This Robert.
Yeah.
We already know your history.
Thank you.
So by the end of that year, I'd ended up breaking the sales record 10 out of the 12 months. Ended up getting named Employee of the Year. And then something crazy happened. Is the owners, it was 2 brothers and their father, who was basically just a silent partner money guy. And if you know the Gershfelds, they're all from Russia. They defected from Russia. And so it's a kind of a true American story, how they started this company and built it up. Anyways, the youngest son, who was the engineer, decided to buy out the rest of the family. Turns out 6 months later, I was national sales manager, stayed there for the next 3 years, 3.5 years, when I got an opportunity to move to Texas. And came to Texas, went to work for a manufacturing rep firm, and that's when I got introduced to Chief. And I worked with that manufacturing rep firm and Chief for the next 5 years until there was an opportunity to come directly work for Chief. That was in 2010. And I've been working with Chief / Milestone, now Legrand AV, since that time.
So tell us a little bit about Legrand. Some of our viewers and listeners may not fully understand Legrand. Maybe they know Legrand before it was a part of what it is now, or encompassed everything it is now. So tell us a little bit about Legrand, the products that they have, and we're also going to show a graphic of Legrand's website to show those manufacturers. But go ahead and tell us a little bit about that.
Yep. So within Legrand, you have a lot of different divisions. I mean, it's a huge international company, over 36,000 employees, based out of France.
They don't have any gold records, though.
Not that I know of.
See?
Not a single one.
Yeah.
I'd almost bet to say that no one in the Legrand organization has gold records.
Or can throw an axe like me.
Okay, we'll get into that in a second.
Oh, yeah.
Hold on to that.
I missed out on that.
Hold on to that. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So, international company, their North American headquarters is in Connecticut. And within North America, there's roughly 3 different divisions, and I belong to the Legrand AV division, which focuses in on particular brands that work within our AV integrators area. Brands like Chief, Daylight, Mid-Atlantic, Vadio, C2G, Wiremold, and now Lexel. The other divisions deal a little bit more with power and structured wiring.
Right.
So we have an EWS division, and then a DCD division as well.
Okay.
See, and that's what I was most familiar with Legrand for, was their power products.
Right.
In general, I don't have any firsthand experience, but just flipping through catalog sort of stuff. And then we've done some Legrand floor boxes and different things over
boxes.
over the years. But exposure past that until they kind of took over the Milestone brand umbrella.
Right. Which that's been it's been an exciting time. You know, with them acquiring Milestone in 2017, we they basically purchased Chief, Daylight, Vadio, and Sanus, and rolled that into Legrand. Realized that we had a great infrastructure and a great history of growth within Milestone, and so they ended up taking our management structure and making that part of the new Legrand AV division, rolling Mid-Atlantic, C2G, Wiremold, and then Lexel under that management.
So how's that impacted your role in the AV industry? Because you can reach way more brands than you could even with Milestone.
Oh, absolutely. So,
I mean, being able to bring more to companies like Taurus, for instance, more offerings.
Absolutely. Where previously I was very focused just on Chief. In my new role, I'm responsible for all the brands under Legrand AV. So it's exciting for me. I can go in and talk to people I already have good relationships with and good rapport with, and introduce them into products that they may not be aware of or have experience with or have a little bit limited experience, and then use that rapport and those relationships to help them bridge that gap to give that product a try.
Right. Well, having largely focused on Chief products for so long,
like 14 years.
Right. How's it been picking up brands like Vadio and Daylight and because that's it's AV, but it's a different section,
animal.
Right? It's a different subset of the market.
So
how have you done like acclimating to that? Because essentially you're our go-to for those brands. You got to know what you're talking about.
Right. And luckily I do have tier 2 support people that back me up on those individual brands. The good thing about me is working as a manufacturer rep for 5 years, I got experience to 20 different product lines from every little thing. So that really making that shift to be able to go, hey, I need to talk about screens now. Well, I've talked about screens before. I know how to sell screens. I understand the math behind projection and all that stuff. So that's not a problem.
So it's like muscle memory.
Yeah. Right. So, I mean, once you've kind of have sold something in the past, you kind of just need to learn that new company's information, right? And maybe brush up on how technology's changed, right? So when I used to sell Tandberg, now I'm selling Vadio. Well, during that 10-year span of difference, people have moved away from hard codecs to soft codecs, right? And understanding that new paradigm and where things are going in those directions.
So let's jump into a little bit of Chief products, since that is, I guess, at the core your specialty.
Sure.
So myself, my role is as the leader of the sales team. Is we call on customers and we talk to customers about all of their needs, obviously, in professional audio visual, and we use a Chief product, not to toot your horn or to think that that's the only product out there. We'll get into that. Yeah, it's not a gold record. Right? We use a Chief product in almost every single design that we have. And the reason that we use them is because to us, it's solid. It comes with the integrator in mind. So I want you to touch on some of those things. Why some of our customers, as we approach them, no, I'll go to Amazon and get that mount. I can get that mount for X dollars. So tell me why we would, anybody really would choose a Chief mount over something they just go get off the internet.
Absolutely. Chief has a long history. The company was started in 1978. And back then, if you wanted to do any kind of corporate presentation, you were using a 35 millimeter slide projector. And your presentation could only be as long as that circle of slides, right? If you wanted to go longer than that, you'd have to have a bio break or something in the middle so you could switch that out. Hopefully all your slides were in the right direction.
Yeah.
Right? So the owner of Chief, whose nickname was Chief, and that's what he named the company after, actually started.
That's interesting. Let's pause on that.
Hold on. I'm learning so much today. This is great.
So I'd always assumed that Chief just meant like we're the top of the line. So what you're saying though is that the original founder his nickname was Chief, and
Correct.
therefore thus the name.
Yep.
Wow.
And the early logos of the shirt was actually a Indian chief with the whole headdress and everything like that. So
yeah, gotta get away from that.
yeah, I think we moved away from that pretty quickly. But it's interesting to see
I'm glad I don't come to shows and see you guys with war paint on and headdresses. That would be.
Is he still around?
No, he was. So when the company got bought out in, I want to say early 2000s, he left then, or stayed on as a consultant partner. And then Chief has always been a powerhouse. Chief acquired Sanus, which was a residential mounting system. So kind of going back to that quality, why Chief is absolutely designed for commercial integration. The thought process of why you want to use Chief is it's a fast, easy install. Sanus is definitely a residential type piece. If you've got all day Saturday afternoon to put up a TV, it's a great do-it-yourself mount, right? But you're going to spend an afternoon. If you've got to do 10 rooms in an afternoon, you definitely want to use a Chief mount. You're going to save so much time and the thought process and how that mount's designed. Plus, Chief goes, because they know it's going to be used in a commercial application, everything goes through UL testing. So everything's tested and put together in such a way so they'll pass every UL test, whether it's a wall mount or a cart or things like that. It's incredible what I've seen over the last 14 years in the industry of different products out there and how rickety some people's carts are. They're going to put a 70 or 80 inch TV on them, and I'm like, whew, I don't want to be the one who pushes that.
Well, I think the first time we ever put I think it was a 75 inch plasma on a cart. Carts didn't exist to hold the weight of a 70 some odd inch plasma. We had something custom made by a crane maker, like a company that makes hoists and cranes make a four-wheeled cart to hold this thing up. And it's in I think it's still out there in the hangar.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's over in, I don't know that we could say the customer. It's over in Grand Prairie.
Yeah. But you're not tipping that thing over, with or without a TV on it.
Yeah.
So, but there was an amount at the time.
Custom made in the USA.
Yeah.
Right here in DFW. there wasn't a cart made at that point in time that would hold anything near the weight of that TV safely.
Right. That TV was probably, back in the day, it was probably 350 pounds.
Yeah, I think it took three of us to lift it, and it was at about 6 foot.
We had one spotter just stand there and just make sure that if it's going to come down one way,
doesn't land on
he's
somebody.
going to break the fall.
It had to have been a Panasonic, I guess. I don't know who else would have been making them that size.
No, I think it was LG. I think you're right.
Okay.
It's a massive LG. So
Anyway.
To the mounts, let me tell you a little bit about my experience. So both Corey and I started our careers out in the field, and we've worked with Chief products since our careers started.
No gold records.
And this, I realize we have you on the show because we want the expertise and we want the knowledge and your experience. And this isn't to plug a product. This is serious as an integrator. I've never seen a manufacturer to the extent that essentially makes metal take into account what the integrators experience out in the field, like Chief has. And I mean that in the truest sense of the word. I remember when we were originally installing, and they're like, okay, well, the biggest problem is that it takes two people to put this mount up and make sure that it's level. I can't hold it. I can't do this. I can't get the toggles in without having another guy there. Okay, you combat against that. The next thing that we come into is, okay, well, we're putting together a hospital that's going to have 750 displays, and just keeping track and categorizing the mounts correctly. Okay, and then you went as far as to make a box that the mount went in that literally had the ability to label. It showed a little cutout of the mount on the inside of the lid, has, hey, put your project number here. I mean, that to me is taking the forethought of the integrator and essentially at the end of the day really saving time and money that gets passed on to a customer into account. And to me, that's really big. And I think that's a big standpoint of why Chief products in general are better than anything you could probably just go get off the internet.
Absolutely. There's so many examples that I've been given over the years of how our product installs at half the time or quarter time of other people's products. And it's really powerful for the integrators and how they can use that as a labor savings for their customers and be able to get in and off the job quickly. One of the bigger jobs we won up in Minnesota, where former Milestone headquarters, now Legrand AV headquarters was for United Health. And somebody forgot to order the monitor arms for 1,100 desks that were going into, and they had 6 weeks to get all the arms and get them installed. And we brought in ours, which comes fully assembled out of the box, right?
Yep.
And they brought in the furniture manufacturer's arm that was in 18 pieces and had about 29 different screws and washers and everything that the techs were going to have to build. It took the end user about 3 minutes to decide when the lead installer said, I can't do it unless I have something that's already put together like this Chief mount. And it was that quick, and we won the project just because our mounts came fully assembled right out of the box.
Well, I'm just doing rough math.
Yeah.
1,100 mounts, pre-assembled. We would charge somewhere in the neighborhood of a half hour to an hour for a single guy to put it on the desk, put the monitors on the mounts, dress the cables, get them plugged in. So round number, 1,100 hours. If you had a crew of 8 or 10 or 12 people, let's say 10, so you divide that down, you're still at 100 hours, which is beyond the 6 weeks that they had deadline-wise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
so in this case, they didn't actually have to put the monitors on. They didn't have to dress them out. All you had to do is get the monitor arms on every desk in the right place. And it was the company's IT team that was going to come in behind and do all the cable dressing and mount the monitors and stuff like that. And that was, I think that the IT team was a team of about 15 people that were going to do that. But the installer had to get them all on the desk in the right position. You know,
ahead of the IT team in this case. So they really didn't even have 6 weeks. They probably had 2.
Something like, I think it ended boiling down about 3.5, 4 weeks to get the 1,100 mounts on the decks. So
I think that's a big deal that a lot of now the customers think about.
Right.
A majority of our customers, larger base customers, let's use them as an example, they utilize their staff, their IS or IT teams to mount these monitor arms at desks because they're the ones that are, getting the Dell monitors and the PCs and the cables. They're utilizing those guys that have degrees that are literally writing code and making sure that the security of a business is the utmost.
Hey, it's IT, man. That's how it works. If IT touches it, then it's IT. Like,
I know.
Like this touch monitor is on this table, so this table is IT's responsibility.
My point is
that's how that works.
My point is that they're thinking they're just look. Hey, okay, here's all these monitor arms. Go mount them, and those guys don't have a choice. but it's such a big deal. You and I worked on a project where we were trying to displace the furniture providers' mounts. And those furniture provider mounts, they were a little bit less expensive, but we did a test on a single desk. We did a mock-up, and it was great because I had to prove to the customer, look, I'm just gonna have one guy here, and we're going to do ours on a desk right next to theirs, and you guys just tell us which one you like more. And that was just about the speed of the mount.
Right.
The pure options of the desk mounts available, I think, is also a very big deal for which Chief has. And so I think it's important to a lot of our listeners and viewers to know that Taurus and other integrators, they have the ability to provide you with desk mounts. So don't just go the way that you've always gone. Why don't you talk to those integrators and hopefully us about options that could be better suited for you?
Well, and I know you, Robert, and Chief have always been pretty supportive when we're trying to do an apples to apples comparison. Like, as well as I know, but sometimes our bosses don't know that we have to buy these things or demo these things simply to prove a point, to show a use case.
Absolutely. And with Chief, I mean, we've always been, I think, one of the easier companies to work with from that standpoint.
Right.
If you guys need a demo, you ask, and it's pretty much shipped out the next day.
And I hope that's something, to be honest, I hope that's something that doesn't change, and it doesn't seem like it has under the Legrand umbrella, because those things, especially when you're talking about mounts, comparing those are oftentimes important, especially in large quantities.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it goes down to touch and feel, right? It's easy for you guys to install it quickly, but after it's installed, whether it be a desk mount or an articulating arm on the wall, that's where you really start feeling the difference with a Chief product, right? Somebody closes a door, is the TV bouncing because it's on an articulation mount and it's pulled out 20 inches? Or is it rock solid, right? And that's so many times I've walked into restaurants and I've looked up and here's this, TV mounted on something they probably bought at Best Buy or
A couple of pieces of Unistrut.
right. And, music's blaring and the TV's bouncing a good quarter to a half inch up and down, right? And I go, man, if they had just spent a little bit more and put a quality mount in, what a better experience it would have been for all the patrons there. Patrons stick around longer, watching the football games on Sunday. Guess what? They're probably going to drink more. They drink more. They're going to want to eat more. They're eating more and they're drinking more. Guess what?
Right. Your
They're
revenue
making
is
more
higher.
money.
Yeah.
Yeah, and unbeknownst to them, they had a gold record holder like in their restaurant seeing that crap. So, I mean, I feel bad for them. So let's shift a little bit over to something that we're getting into more and more all the time because of the economy here in Texas blowing up and a lot of major corporations moving to this area for several reasons, which is a whole nother podcast.
Right.
And brings us into renovation and new construction. And I think it's very, very important to point out that when you're doing those things, there's a lot of things you have to take into play. Architects know this, project managers know this, general contractors know this. But still we're missing a lot, not the integrators necessarily, but those designers about how you can outfit spaces to future-proof for display technology, for example.
Right.
And I think one of those things is in-wall box technology.
Absolutely. I mean, as the electronics around displays, right, gets smaller, whether it be a simple HDBaseT transmitter receiver type piece or a small amplifier or something like that, a lot of that's moving out of racks. And racks are definitely getting smaller in every job. And that equipment's ending up somewhere else, whether it be under the conference table or behind the display or in a plenum box in the ceiling. It's really moving around. And being able to create different products, and that's one big area that Chief has focused on the last 6-7 years, is just equipment storage type pieces, whether it be an in-wall box, like our PAC 525, 526, 527 series, which is a pre or post construction type box. It gives you the ability to break out the outside 1 inch of the box. So it'll fit in a normal 3.5-inch stud, or if they go to a 2.5-inch stud, which we've seen a lot of popularity of that in just trying to increase floor space, right? Going to thinner studs and be able to fit that same box in there. If it's post-construction using a flange and the drywall clamps, we ship a template that shows the technician, here, draw this out on the wall. Now cut out that box, right? We try to make it really simple and easy, and then that way they can just pop the box in and tighten down the screws, and it's mounted. It's ready to go.
I walked a space yesterday in West Texas and had upwards of about 700, 800 of Chief boxes. And they took those cardboard templates and they're all cut out. And what they did is they just shoved them in the box.
Oh, to protect them from
As a
painting.
protector.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, think about the forethought that goes into that. So they only have the first coat of paint on of everything. And I thought that was genius. I haven't seen a lot of contractors do that. So I digress. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the ideas behind it is, after you use that template, if you're not using it in post-construction, how to use it in pre-construction. And now, it's designed so you can fold it and slide it in the box. So as they're mudding in the room in new construction or painting,
right, you don't get covered in
right,
tape and mud and paint and primer.
Right. As you guys are the integrators, you've already pulled your cables in there, right? Last thing you want to do is come in and have your cables, right, and your power all mucked up with mud or paint, from that process. So it's just something there, sits there, protects it, and then when you're ready to do the final install, you can pull that out and easily move forward.
So what do you guys, you guys just have a group of guys sitting in a back room somewhere going, you know what, that might be a good idea?
We actually do a tremendous amount of customer empathy when we're designing products. It's amazing to me how much we go out and talk to our integrators and to AV consultants a lot of times and try to find out, what challenges are you running into? What do you need? What would you like to see? What do you wish was different about our products? And we get that feedback a lot of times. And for example, at Infocom, Chief is launching a new large venue projector mount. We've had the VCMU for 33 years now, right? Came out in 1986. Used to hold up large CRT projectors, basically the size of a VW bug, right?
Well, that that parlays to the large lasers today. I mean, they're pretty heavy.
Yeah.
They are. They're 55, 60 pounds. You throw a lens on them, you're at that point. And what we realized at Chief is the VCMU is a good mount, but it's an old mount. It's big, it's bulky. It requires several different tools to make those adjustments. So with this new mount, we've slimmed it down. It's about a third smaller. It's 25% lighter. It's all toolless knob for your pitch, yaw, roll adjustments on that projector. Again, speed of install, right? Get the tech in, out, and gone as quickly as possible for the integrator.
Well, I remember when you guys switched from the steel projector knuckles to the aluminum ones that you could stick the screwdriver inside and make, micro fine tooth adjustments.
Yep.
Versus having to loosen a couple of screws and kind of nudge it and tighten the screws and
hopefully it didn't spin out of
yeah. Hopefully it didn't turn out. And then you guys added that. I was like, that's amazing. I should have thought of that. There are numerous things I look at and I go, I would be a millionaire had I thought of that. Yeah, you just stick the screwdriver inside and you just rotate it a little bit and very minor adjustments. So little things like that, to me, having had done it, are amazing.
Yeah, Chief has always been a big innovator. I mean, we're the first company to add post-leveling on any flat panel mount, and the industry copied us. We are the first company to add micro adjustments to projector mounts, right? And so you could do pitch on roll adjustments quickly after. The industry followed us in that area. So when we came out with our video wall mount, the Connexa series, and that it actually just used standard unistrut, suddenly we've seen the industry going to all these different mounting solutions using unistrut as the backbone for their mounts. So Chief has continuously innovated, and we're still doing that. So
yeah, I mean, we've got a video wall right in our lobby that's using the unistrut style chief pullout mounts.
Yep.
With Connexus. So just to wrap up the in-wall boxes, I think some of the important things for our viewers to understand is in-wall boxes can be for so many things. They can be to recess the actual mount of the display.
Correct.
In which, we wouldn't necessarily be putting products into for storage, but that allows us in some cases to get under some of those ADA compliancy depths, which are a big deal when you're in renovation and construction. And I think a lot of people don't always have those on the forefront because maybe they don't think that they have to adhere to these compliancies.
Right. And from the time the architect starts on the project to the actual construction is completed and the AV is being brought in to do their job, it's probably been a minimum of 18 months, if not 3-4 years. How many times do TVs change over in a year? Sometimes once, but sometimes 2 or 3 times, right? And
I think they've changed since we've been in this.
Right.
Well, we just finished a project that was a year to conception and 8 months to install, and I think we changed the models on that quote three times.
3 times, yeah.
Yeah. So it's not uncommon. And during that time, making sure that you stay within ADA, right? Maybe the architect had a certain vision, or the AV consultant at that time, or even the integrator who may have been designing that had a certain vision of what it would look like and how it would fit within ADA. And then time comes and technology's changed. And now that display sticker or the fur out on the wall wasn't done exactly to plan. And now you're kind of scrambling it, right? And it's always left to the AV guy to fix everything.
Always.
Always.
We're one of the last ones in there. I mean, you got to fix it if you're one of the last ones.
Yeah.
So in-wall boxes for recessing a lot of the thickness that we have, so the ADA depths. Also, I think it's important to point out that, we go into a lot of places and someone's just thought, okay, power right here at this height and data and maybe coax at this height, that's going to be perfect. And with a lot of the technology that Chief builds in, if let's say we do have an in-wall box, now we can recess those things so they're not hitting the back of the monitor, because a lot of these things have big power bricks.
Right.
And from the time that you plug a big power brick into a duplex that you think is at the right location on the wall, it's kind of pushing that monitor away. I can't tell you how many times I've gone into a space.
Or negative tilt.
Yes,
Right.
Negative tilt. That's exactly what I was going to say. It's kind of bowing out at the bottom. And, to us, the AV geeks, it just bothers the heck out of us.
We can't leave anything like that.
Right.
It doesn't work.
So I think it's important for people to understand that, spending just a little bit of money, some of these things are $80, $90.
If that.
You pay that. I mean, and now you have the ability to combat against all of these issues. It's so easy to install during construction or even post-construction. So I think those are important factors for people to think about as they're specifying all of the displays that are going to be around their location.
Yep. And I'll just give a little plug for Mid-Atlantic now with their newest product, their C3 credenzas. These are less than 10-inch deep credenzas. So if you do have an application where maybe you have a interactive touch panel, those are a little bit thicker, and you've got a mount, and now you're sticking out 4 inches off the wall, and you're worried about getting around ADA. Now you can put this credenza below it, still have access to that IFP, and now you have an area to store your plates, your cups for your conferences, and maybe a little bit of AV gear, whatever, but it helps get you around those applications in a post-type situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've always thought those the slim racks that go below the displays were an amazing idea, and wondered why the industry hadn't adopted those faster.
I think they certainly are now.
Even if it was, for you, vertically mounted. I mean, they're out there, Middle Atlantic and other manufacturers, but you have access to your power and your data locations at a standard height. So if you ever want to remove it later, you're not having to remod those facilities. I think they're great. I wish we would sell more of them below crowded TVs.
We'll get right on that, Corey.
Okay. I need you to do that.
I'm working on it. I'm working on it, brother. So, Robert, is there anything else you'd like to cover while we have you on?
The only other thing I would say is if people are going to be out in Orlando in June for InfoComm, definitely come by the Legrand AV booth, 2500. I think we have the largest booth again this year.
That's awesome.
So
how many people, curious if you know this, how many people present? How many booths are there at InfoComm?
I would only be guessing.
Well, give me a guess.
Well,
I tell you what, we'll do an award for who's the closest.
2,700.
2,700.
I mean,
What's your
their booth number is 2,500, so at least 2,500. But I'm gonna go 2,701.
I'm gonna go 2,705.
Dang it! I knew you were gonna do that.
All right, so we'll put up at the end of the podcast who won that after it's over. Do you want to share with us any InfoComm secrets? It sounds like you already divulged the VCM mount replacement.
So there's that. There on the cheap side, we're going to be showing some new architectural pole mounts.
Yeah.
So if you're going into parking garages or structural poles within a building and you need to add some digital signage, we're going to have some great solutions for that. We're also launching bolt-down freestanding kiosks, both single and back-to-back kiosks in that area. So those are some little tidbits on cheap.
All right.
Little nuggets.
I think that's
Yeah, because we can't make the entire world that watches this world. I mean, that's a little aggressive. We can't make all the viewers sign an NDA, so that's fine. So before we close, let me tell you something you may not know about Robert Dutton, because we already learned one thing: the gold record connoisseur.
I don't know if I can handle learning anything else today.
Robert and the group over at Legrand were kind enough to take us to go throw axes. And let me tell you something about him, is that if the zombies ever come, if they do, and we're reduced to not having weapons like guns any longer.
Right.
Like, let's say we the ammunition
just a whole bunch of axes.
If we just have axes or literally probably anything you could throw. Robert Dutton is a guy that I would probably want on my side.
I saw on LinkedIn, I did see somebody alluded to Robert Dutton being the axe master, but I had no idea.
Yeah, I mean, he's sitting over here smiling, but yeah, he was like,
listen, if I'd have known this is how we were going to end the podcast, I would have set something up in the warehouse.
No, we still can. Robert, little do you know that we're going to throw axes after this, and we're going to take that and we're going to show everybody how deadly you are with an axe, the axe champion.
I'm sure Chris wants a rematch.
Oh,
anyways.
Man, he's on the other side of this podcast studio right now, so we'll make sure we talk to him afterwards. Robert, thank you so much for joining us, man. We really appreciate it. We love getting your insight and understanding a little bit more about Legrand, what they have to offer, how great they are for not only the integrators but the customers out there, and a little bit of insight into InfoComm, which is great. So InfoComm, that's in 2 weeks, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Starts June 12th, 13th, and 14th.
Excellent, excellent. So the exhibit portion of that show is Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Correct.
And we'll have a lot of people there from Taurus Technologies. I know you guys, that sounds cool. You're going to have the biggest booth. I feel like that's like a bet between you and other manufacturers.
It's, it was interesting. When we were just Chief, Daylight, and Vadio, that was only 1 year. And we were one of the bigger ones. And now adding in Mid-Atlantic into that, who already had a
they've got a huge...
Yeah, it's not like you can just put their products into small...
Right. And so, we've had to get creative because we can't bring the breadth of all brands to the show. So we've actually gone to a lot of little minuets. So there's a classroom set up, there's a conference room set up, there's a large projection venue set up. So you'll see the products actually in the use that you would normally see them in the real world.
Well, and all the products together, it sounds like.
Yes.
In a space being used. So
be very cool.
Are you guys going to have like live updates as the show starts or every day, or are you going to have some follow up at the end? How do the people watching find out what you guys did at InfoComm?
So our marketing team's really good about posting stuff to YouTube. So if you go out and search, Chief or Daylight or any really of the brands out there, you're going to find a multitude of different YouTube videos from, maybe tips and tricks to new product releases and stuff like that. So I wouldn't be even shocked if some of that's already up there if you want to go get a preview.
All
Very
right.
cool.
That's awesome.
Well, thanks again, Robert. For myself, for Corey Church, we thank you for listening and watching. If you have anything that you'd like to hear more of, please let us know by emailing us at info@taurustechinc.com. Thanks again, and y'all have a great day.